Got it. Okay.
Great.
All righty, here we go. And thank you guys for coming out Friday night. I think we had a lot of folks that were impressed, especially when we talked to, was it North Carolina or South Carolina?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun when we had we had the ham radio group out and we had a station set up in one of the trucks, and the movie you were showing, Frequency, the ham radio was a big story theme through that. I had never seen that movie. That was really cool.
Oh, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
It's had a lot of action in it, and a lot of really good information too about the ham radios and different stuff. But
and the history of it, going way back, and we had a little technical hiccup with the movie. So, but that was a great opportunity for us to show. We had some people come over to the truck, and like I said, got some people on the air talking ham radio across the country, and that was very cool.
So hopefully there's a few folks out there that would be interested in getting your license to become a ham radio operator. Not only do you get to be on and play with your own ham radio, but there's a lot of other things that the ham they do here in San Angelo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we volunteer with the Weather Service and do a lot of storm spotting, and we actually operate a radio desk at the Weather Service during severe weather. Our Amateur Radio Emergency Services group runs nets and emergency communications equipment, so that if the grid fails or if other emergencies happen, we're ready, and we work with the state and operate a radio station, a ham radio station at the city's emergency operations center. And speaking of that, tomorrow is our big annual exercise at the emergency operations center. Nationwide, it's called Field Day. And so every amateur radio operator in the country is going to be on the air. And so there's a lot of traffic and a lot of exciting times. And we'll be demonstrating ham radio, and we can talk more about the details and the timing of everything. But we invite everybody to come out to the Emergency Operations Center by the airport, and we'll talk about ham radio and educate you and let you maybe get on the air. Not maybe, we could.
Yeah, over at Mathesfield.
Near Mathesfield, yep.
Yes, and it's not the National Weather Service. It's over closer to...
It's right by the terminal. The address is 8485 Hanger Road, and it's the building with all the antennas on it across the street from the main terminal.
Of course there's antennas. It wouldn't be the ham radio without antennas. I think I have 3 on my house.
Yeah, it's across. The best way to put it is directly across the street from the new ASU Flight Center, which is a gorgeous building, a new building if people haven't seen that. So directly across the street from that, it's the city's Emergency Operations Center. And the club and the Aries group, we maintain a ham radio station there for emergencies. And we test it every week, but this weekend is our big annual test, and so we'll be operating there for 24 hours straight and testing that equipment and talking all over the world.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. I like doing that. You guys just finished a class for getting licensed.
We did.
Right? This last weekend.
Yep. Last weekend we did a class. And this week is the weekend is also the test session. So there's a handful of people that took that class, and we spent 3 days going through all the subjects and kind of explaining it. Now, there's a lot of people that study on their own. You don't have to go through a class. And in fact, the people that went through the class, a lot of them studied on their own. And there's some people that never come to a class. But basically, if you could pass a little bit longer version of a driver's license test, you could pass this ham radio test. And so it's very attainable. And so we'll hold that testing session at 2:00 at our clubhouse, which is also right near the airport at 5513 Stewart Lane over by the ball fields by the airport.
Well, my suggestion is if you're interested in it and you might want to come out and take the test to see where you are, you guys can help them where you'll learn where you need to study a little bit more.
There's an even easier way to do it. There's a website called hamstudy.org. And that one actually, you can do free tests all day long and see where you're at. We really recommend that because that's actually, these days, that's the exact same system we administer the test with. So it's identical. You'll feel like you're doing exactly the same thing when you were studying because this is actually our first test session where we'll have a bunch of laptops and tablets. And so everybody that comes in will pick up the tablet, and it uses that same website platform to actually take the test. So
that sounds neat. That sounds neat. Really nice. Yeah, to be able to do that. Okay. Would you like for us to put a song on about right now?
Sure.
I've got some 70s here and some 60s all lined up. Got Donovan, Catch the Wind. That's from 65. Let's see, what else have I got on here? Oh, I got Dr. John. We got The Right Place in the Wrong Time. What about that one? That sounds like a good song. Here we go.
And I wonder what that was.
Okay, nothing better than Dr. Hook.
I like that one. That's a good one.
Ah, yes. And this is a good time. We're not in a wrong time. We're in a good time to talk about the San Angelo Amateur Radio Club with all the great things that you guys do. I mean, you not only are you there to help people get into this, but you guys have been here for a long time.
Yeah, the San Angelo Amateur Radio Club was founded in 1922, and that was at a time when there weren't any broadcast radio stations except for a couple in like Pittsburgh and New York maybe, and those were owned by the companies that were manufacturing radios. And so in 1922 here in San Angelo, there was a couple of stores that were retailing radios, but they were big and they were expensive. And also around the early 1920s, there were some magazines that were starting to come out so that people could build their own radios out of some simple parts. And so there was a group of folks here in San Angelo that were starting to experiment with that. Now, in 1922 or 1921, really, there was a rancher, I think out in Erie County, if I remember right, who had he did have a big radio set that he had paid a lot of money for. And the reason he did that is he was able to find out what livestock prices were in the Chicago market. And so that was very interesting. And so I've got a newspaper article from the Standard Times in 1921 where this group of guys, before there was a radio club, just a group of guys that were interested in radio and learning more about it, they all took a trip out to his ranch and heard this magical box. And it wasn't shortly thereafter before they actually created a radio club. And that club stayed active. Now it dropped out during World War II because amateur radio was turned off, because of the war. And that same thing happened in World War I. So there were amateur radio experimenters in World War I. But yeah, so then the club kind of kicked back up after the war and has pretty much stayed strong ever since. And so, early amateur radio folks were really STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, before STEM was called STEM, And these are the same guys that would have had 3D printers going on, back in the day.
But they were making news.
They were making news. Well,
Yes.
So it's funny. We have this document of all of this stuff happening in San Angelo. Why does Dave know that here in 2024, 25 when I was doing this research? Well, a couple of those guys worked for the newspaper. And, back then they'd print anything in the newspaper if it was interesting, that if somebody checked into a hotel, it was in the newspaper. Well, a couple of these guys that were interested in radio worked for the Standard Times. And so there's just dozens of articles from the 20s and 30s, really for all time, but especially in the early 20s about the history of how amateur radio got started and the club and where they met. They did demonstrations at the San Angelo Fair in that year, 22, 23. And so, the demonstrations that the radio club was doing might have been some of the first time that some of those folks had heard a radio. So it's very cool. And then that's the same group that really from a technical standpoint that helped get the first radio station, KGFI, on the air. And then a year and a half later, that was so successful. Houston Hart and a bunch of the other businessmen in town all pitched in to buy a transmitter out of Georgetown, and that became KGKL. And so that's pretty cool. So yeah, this is back then broadcast radio and amateur radio, there was no distinction. It was just all one thing.
Yeah, but it sure is different nowadays.
It sure is, yeah.
Yeah, I got my little baby station here, and we try to cover the city of San Angelo with this. And, of course, it's just a small it's a 100-watt transmitter, but I do 42 watts because I'm at 160 foot by being on top of the cactus. That's my math. And so whenever you got all sorts of different things, but, the other stations are like 500 watts, 100,000 watts, they're 5,000, 50,000 watts. I mean, so they cover further than what I do, but
Mhm.
I like we like to do what we're doing here, and we like to be here for the community.
Mhm.
And that's why we are here, and we're a 501c3, totally nonprofit, and we exist by the donations from the community.
And the San Angelo Amateur Radio Club is also a 501c3, and we've really been blessed by the community. San Angelo Gives campaign was very successful. The San Angelo Area Health Foundation and the San Angelo Area Foundation have both given grants that were incredible and helped us. You know, we have a clubhouse out by the airport. The original clubhouse was actually underneath the Houston Hart Expressway, right in front of Central High School. So back in the 40s and 50s, the 40s they built that clubhouse, and then in the 60s they tore it down because they were already clearing out that room for the highway. So the city gave we lease it for $1 a year, a plot of land out by the airport, and the Hams built that ham shack out there. And so we still meet there, but the Area Foundation and the Health Foundation and private donations and all that, we've remodeled that clubhouse, and it looks spick and span brand new. And so it'll serve the ham radio community and the STEM education and emergency preparedness for decades and decades more to come. So we're excited about that. In October, we'll have a ribbon cutting at our club birthday party.
Oh, well, that sounds like you guys have got it all set up and all together. I really enjoy being able to be a part of all of these things that go on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud to have my ham license.
Yeah, it's a license to learn. You don't have to know everything when you get your license. As long as you can memorize it and pass the test, you can get on the air and you start to learn things. And if anybody wants to come see what it's all about, this weekend is Field Day. It's the annual Ham Radio Field Day. And over at the Emergency Operations Center, we'll be operating from starting at about 12 o'clock. We'll have a Ham Radio 101 class at the EOC on Saturday at noon, and we'll have pizza there. And then at 1 o'clock, that big event starts, and we're going to do transmitter hunts, and then talk around the country on the emergency station there. And then at 6 p.m. we have a potluck. At 7:30, we've got one of our members is going to do a amateur radio satellite pass. So he'll be communicating with other ham radio operators through a satellite at 7:30. We're going to try that. So that's a lot of fun. And it's a 24-hour event, and we're doing that again at the EOC over there at 8485 Hanger Road. And then right down the street is the Ham Radio Clubhouse, and we'll also be operating that station on Field Day as well. So, come on out and see what ham radio is all about.
Oh, ham radio is a lot of fun. A lot of fun, you guys. Well, I got a couple more songs booked up here. Do we want Foreigner or do we want Bruce Springsteen?
I like Foreigner.
Foreigner? All righty, here we go. Oh, Foreigner, so great for you. Say You Will, and that was from 1988. So I kind of bounced around a little bit here in the great classic music that we play. You guys, I've got Dave Mulvey here, and he is the president of the San Angelo Amateur Radio Club here in town.
Vice President.
I promoted you. But that's okay. And you guys have so much that you do. I mean, we could talk for hours and hours and hours and never repeat anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's you guys do such a good job with what you do. So, and with your new facilities out there, with the way you've got everything built with your classrooms, you can help people with STEM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and a lot of the STEM education support that we do isn't necessarily at our clubhouse, although we do. We had a scout group out at the clubhouse the other day and demonstrated the station and things like that. And what a sharp group of kids, too. That was a lot of fun. So we've done that. We have created, it's now closed, but the museum at ASU, we did a history of radio in San Angelo. So it was a little bit of history and a little bit of STEM that was wrapped up in that Radio Pioneers of San Angelo exhibit. And we also support the Night at the Museum event, and we get over there whenever we can to participate in that and demonstrate ham radio and let kids talk on the air. And, it's not just STEM education for kids either. It's, for adults too. I came to this hobby as an adult, and it was kind of my COVID hobby a little bit. And it is, lots of learning opportunities, and there's so many different activities you can do. Like, for example, this Saturday we're going to do a amateur radio transmitter hunt. So, let's use an example. Maybe if there was somebody causing interference on this frequency or something, and when they were doing it maliciously, there's techniques that you can use, to very simple and inexpensive techniques, to go figure out whether it's intentional or unintentional, that interference is coming from, to make sure that it's not stepping on important things like community radio or public safety radio. So we do an exercise, and we'll do another one Saturday. Come on out to the clubhouse or the EOC by the airport, and we can teach you. We can give you all the equipment to go see if you can find the hidden transmitter.
Oh, and
we call it a fox hunt, like the fox is the hidden transmitter. So lots of, and that's all practical applied knowledge. There's a little bit of memorization if you want to take the test, but we try to do things that are applied knowledge, building antennas and that kind of thing. The measurements of an antenna really dictate what the frequencies that it works on. And so that's a very practical, hands-on, internalizing, education to exactly what the physics are that are happening with the electromagnetic waves and things. So, I'm trying not to sound smarter than I am, because I'm not smart, but, again, we try to keep it on layman's terms and understand the practical ways that radio can benefit. We use radio a lot in our society these days. Everybody on them right now probably has 3 or 4 radios. Your Apple iWatch, your telephone has 3 or 4 radios. Your key fob on your car has like 2 different kinds of transmitters. It's wild. So it's all radio. Everything I just described, it's all the same principles of radio. It's just a matter of what frequency and what kind of signal it is. So
that's true. Learning
all that is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and when we speak of STEM education, that's give us the scientific version of what STEM education is. Or
STEM encompasses, like, pardon me. So like Region 15 here, the service center for all the public K-12 school districts in Texas for this region, they host all the STEM teachers, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. And that's a pretty common term that they use in education to talk about, those subjects. And so there's a lot of math, not a lot of math. There is math in radio. There's physics. There's, it's a lot of science. We talked about engineering off the air. We're talking about your antenna and your transmitter and all that, and figuring out what's the right engineering answer to any problems that you might have. And so, like, for example, we, for the past few years, all those Region 15 STEM teachers, we've done an amateur radio demonstration and talked about how they could use that in the classroom for them, because they all meet all from all those districts. They meet every summer and have a STEM camp. So yeah, that's what science, technology. It's just science, technology, engineering, math. It's the nerds, but these days it's not. It's fun to be a nerd. We say that affectionately. We are nerds.
Well, I was married to a nerd.
Well, he built a pretty good station
yes,
in partnership with you, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, and with his broadcasting, his engineering and stuff that he did, most of everything inside the station was donated from another radio station that he had been taking care of. Mm-hmm. So this little baby station didn't cost that much to get rolling, and it's got top-notch equipment in it. Yeah. And that's, how one person helps another person, and it just rolls down the good stream.
The other night after the movie night, I pestered David after he was putting away the projector. I said, "Hey, can we come up to the station and take a look at the transmitter rack?" And he walked through it with us and showed us what every piece of equipment is. We found it fascinating. So if you're listening right now and you've always thought, well, how many different little pieces of equipment does it take to put a radio station on the air? I'm sure if you came to the radio club, we could talk about it, and I bet Kathie would let us come up here and show you.
Yeah, I sure would.
And it's fun to there's so many buttons in so little time. It's so many buttons to press.
Oh well, we're going to be broadcasting the July 3rd Pops live, and you guys are going to help me be able to do that by monitoring my little nano beam, which the nano beam it's a frequency, but it doesn't use the internet, so that it'll be like a straight shot right over here from the river stage to the cactus.
Let's see if I've got it right. What you want me to do? So you want us to go over there and plug into the soundboard over there, and then send a radio signal over here to the studio, direct shot, line of sight. and then that will be retransmitted here on KCSA 97.1.
Yes,
Yeah.
live. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Come right
I think I can do that. It's just Lego pieces, right? Putting
That's
it all
right.
together.
Just Lego pieces you got to connect together.
That
and
is
make-
all ham radio really is. Aside from building antennas, which is fun, just a lot of Lego pieces and knowing how they all work. And
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, it's about the bottom of the hour, and it's time for us to see what's going on with Tumbleweed Smith. Tumbleweed Smith is heard 3 times daily here, Monday through Friday at 7:30, 12:30, and then again at 5 o'clock while you make your way home. Tumbleweed Smith, we want to thank Johnson's Funeral Home for them making it possible for us to have Tumbleweed Smith. Here we go.
Lucia of Weatherford has been in rodeo nearly 50 years. I'm Tumbleweed Smith with the Sound of Texas.
Thank you, Tumbleweed. Remember, you can hear Tumbleweed Smith 3 times daily at 7:30, 12:30, and then again at 5 o'clock while you make your way home. And we do, again, want to say thank you to Johnson's Funeral Home for them making it possible into being an underwriter here for Tumbleweed Smith. Okay, Kathie with you, and I've got Dave Mulvey with me, and we are talking about the San Angelo Amateur Radio Club here in town. And I apologize again for the static. The wind is blowing, so it's moving something around upstairs, and as soon as it decides to calm down enough, we can get a tire crew up there, and they don't get hurt. We'll get someone upstairs and get rid of that. And so anyway, but yeah, it's noisy. But anyway, and so you guys have a big weekend coming up.
Yeah, so this weekend is the big annual field day event, and so nationwide, ham radio operators will be testing their equipment. You know, the field day term, I grew up in the 80s, and field day to us meant just going out into the recess yard and doing field events and, potato sack races and things like that. But field day really, means going out into the field and testing your equipment. It may be a military term, I don't know. But field day is basically about, it's not a contest, but it's sort of an activity. And so you enter a class and you say, okay, our station is going to be, like, for example, we're going to be operating 2 Foxtrot, which means 2F. We're going to have 2 transmitters, and F means we're at an EOC and we're running on emergency power there, like backup power. So we're really testing the equipment that we would use in an emergency. And there's guys that work at home that like 1 Alpha, I think, is just working at home at your own station and, maybe plugged into the wall, or there's different classes for if you're on battery or emergency power. But that's really what it is. It's a readiness activity. But it's also the most active day of the year for ham radio. You can turn on any frequency just about in the ham radio bands, and you will hear chatter. And so we also use it to demonstrate amateur radio for the community. We used to, some people might have seen us in the past over there by the Sam's Club, like where that dock in a box is now. Mm-hmm. We set up there one year. We've set up at the lake, at the state park, in past decades. For the last few years, we've worked at the Emergency Operations Center because we maintain, there's always a ready radio station, ham radio transmitter there. And like I said, it gets tested weekly. But this weekend, we invite the public to come out and learn about amateur radio. And that'll from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock Saturday at the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center. We'll have a lunch and learn. So we'll have free pizza out there if you want. But we'll talk about Ham Radio 101 and just answer any questions and help people understand what ham radio is all about. And then the event starts at 1 o'clock p.m. in the afternoon, and it goes until 1 o'clock the next day. And so some of the guys will be there. I'll probably be there 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm not going to be there much later than that. But there's some guys that love working, because the where the sun's at and how much, what the atmosphere is doing and, the time of day, that all affects how frequencies, propagate across the world. And so you can work different places at different times of night, like deep into the night, Japan, just because of the way that the sun works, we start hearing Japan stations and things like that. So that'll be fun. And so we invite everybody to come out to the EOC, the address there. It's over there by the main airport terminal and the ASU, the new ASU flight center. That's 8485 Hanger Road. And so just come, and if you just come to the side door and knock on the door, and we'll hear you and we'll let you in. And yeah, we invite the public out, and we'll be demonstrating like satellite ham radio at 7:30. And we'll have a fox hunt going on, like I was talking about earlier, the transmitter hunt, and that'll start about 1 o'clock. So really, there's a lot of different things. I'm also, you know what, I just realized I've got an opportunity, because that EOC is pretty big. I think I'm going to bring some of the museum exhibit that we did for ASU. I think I'm going to bring some of that equipment, and not the equipment as much as the story cards and all that. I'll set that up at the EOC too. So if you didn't see the ASU Radio Pioneers of San Angelo exhibit, come by the EOC this weekend after 1 o'clock Saturday, and you'll be able to walk around and look at some of that stuff, the story cards that we did for that. If you're interested in the history of radio in San Angelo and generally in the world, we'll have some history content there too at Field Day.
Well, that'd be a great outing for a family, or for some scouts or little church groups or something. That would be a beautiful outing.
We'd love to have you out.
Is to come out and to visit with you guys and see what's going on.
It won't be fancy. It won't be stuffy. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. You know, if we may, want you to get on the air or encourage you to talk to somebody in a different state or a different country. You don't have to do that. But if you want to, you don't even need your license. We'll have a station there that's set up with our call sign on it. And so you can use our call sign and get a taste for ham radio.
Be a guest.
Be a guest, yeah.
Yes, and it is a lot of fun. Well, I have I have four. I have 4 ham radios. I was trying to think how many I got. Because got one in the pickup, and got one in the house, and got one in the car, and then got an extra one. And I've been thinking about getting some little portable ones. That would be a lot of fun to have.
So here's a funny story about the very first police radios in the 1930s, which, by the way, were the engineer for that was the head of the radio club in the 30s, Wilbur Anderson. He also worked for the city. He also was the guy that installed the first parking meters in the 1930s. So boo, but he was a smart guy, and so anything that was new and innovative, he was pretty much the go-to guy, and he was the head of the radio club in the 30s. Well, the radio that they installed in the very first radio car, if you've ever heard the term radio car for the police, was it because they didn't have radios in every car? So the chief had a radio in the back, and it filled up the entire back seat, and so they had to bolt a rail to the top of the car and to the side rail, so that if they had to apprehend somebody and transport a prisoner, they would handcuff them to the roof rail. They couldn't ride inside the car because the back seat of the car was full of radio equipment. So that was the very first radio car in San Angelo. And again, back then, there was very little distinction between, public safety radio, ham radio, broadcast radio. It was all the same guys doing it because it was a new technology. They were the guys on the street that knew what was going on.
That's true. Very true. But it's a lot of fun. Radio is so much fun. Whether you're in a radio station like what we are, or you're on a ham radio, or you're just sitting someplace listening to the great music or some of the programs and stuff that go on.
You're benefiting from the radio technology. You touch it so many more times than you even realize. You're using your Wi-Fi at your house. You're using your cell phone, which is a radio. You're having your Bluetooth headphones hooked up to your phone, which is another radio inside your phone. You got your key fob, and there's just dozens and dozens of things that are radio, and it's all the same science. It's just a matter of how you apply it.
Yeah, turn your TV on and off.
Exactly.
Turn your air conditioning on and off. I mean, it's all, everything remote controlled that you have is got a radio in it.
If you have a curiosity about the way things work, ham radio is, there's no end to what you can learn in ham radio. There's lots of different ways to apply it to. There's some people that just like to talk on our local repeaters on the weeknights that we do our exercises and our chats on the net. And then there's other people that never do that, and they only like to talk to people in other countries. And then we've got other people that only like to do satellite ham radio contacts. There's just so many different ways to deploy the hobby. And these days with the internet and with little circuit boards getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. There's one of our club members that built a Fox transmitter. That he completely designed it on his computer and then had them ship him the complete circuit board a few days later. And he's exceptional. He knows who he is, but he's great at that stuff. But like the ham radio hobby just keeps evolving with technology, and we're doing essentially the same things with it, just in different ways.
That's true. That is very true the way it is. Okay. How about a little Pablo Cruz now?
Sure.
Yeah, we're going to do Love Will Find a Way from 1978. All right. Pablo Cruz there. Love Will Find a Way. Got Dave Mulvey with me, and we're talking about the San Angelo Amateur Radio Club. Hey, what all do you guys do? What have you got going on for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about Field Day this weekend that we invite everybody out to, but every month we have a club meeting on the second Thursday of every month at 7:00, and that is over at our clubhouse that we talked about earlier. The address there is 5513 Stewart Lane. And, we've just recently remodeled it, and it's pretty nice and comfortable in there. And, but anyway, we usually have a quick business chat, any club business that we have, because we are a 501c3, so we have to take minutes. But we try to make that quick during the regular club meetings. And then we have some kind of educational program, a presentation about something that somebody did in ham radio. One day we might invite Kathie out to talk about how she's run a community radio station and all the trials and tribulations of that. But we try to keep it diverse in topic, but it's always things that would be interesting to people that are interested in how radio works and how radio is used, and all the edge cases, the edge examples of how radio works, and also new innovations in ham radio and technology in general. If somebody worked a new station in a they call it DX, working like a distance station, that's the abbreviation from back in the telegraph days. DX was distance, so that's where that comes from. Ham radio guys love their acronyms, guys and gals. So yeah, so we whether somebody worked a DX station that's interesting and they want to talk about that experience, we have usually half hour, 45 minutes of program at the clubhouse on the Thursday nights, the second Thursday of every month at 7:00. And then, after that, we just hang around and chit chat. And of course, our clubhouse has a ham radio station in it, and anybody that's a member has access to the clubhouse to go use that at any time. So I go there a lot because I don't have a big antenna set up at my house. I just haven't done that yet. Even though I'm pretty active with ham radio, I just haven't done that. So when there's something interesting I want to go do, I'll run over there to the clubhouse and use that station if it's something that I don't have the capability for at home. So then, every October we have a swap meet, and people from all over, Brownwood and Abilene, et cetera, Midland, Odessa, all the hams still come to our birthday party swap meet. That's the club birthday party. And we might do a ribbon cutting at our October birthday party this year to celebrate all the remodeling that we've done with the grants from the Area Foundation and Health Foundation. And so then we have a Christmas eatin' meeting where we don't talk anything about ham radio. We just enjoy each other's company and give out some fun awards. And then, like the monthly meetings. And then, the group kind of gets together at least quarterly, puts on a test session so that if people want to get their ham radio license, they can do that. And usually the week before that, we'll do ham radio study hall, and we'll help people that are having trouble with certain parts of the subject that if they've been studying on their own and they just need a little help understanding the concepts, we're happy to do that. And and then of course all the STEM activities that we try to help with the museum and the Region Service Center and just anybody that needs our help. Of course, Skywarn, this time of year, the Skywarn activations, keeping an eye on the sky and getting the radioing the reports of what's going on the ground, hail and severe winds, damaging winds, any kind of reportable severe weather. We're doing that through ham radio. In fact, we've got another project we've got to finish before the end of the year, redoing that radio desk at the National Weather Service. So there's lots of ways that you can report the severe weather that you see, because that is important for the meteorologists. There's lots of ways to report it. You can do it through Facebook or pick up the phone and call them, let them know what you're seeing on the ground. But ham radio is the fastest way to do it because the meteorologists are sitting there listening to it right along with us. So So we try to do those type of community service things as well. And then if there's any big event that happens that knocks out communications, we're ready. We maintain some amateur radio repeaters that cover the entire county of Tom Green and Runnels. And of course, we're connected in other ways to other statewide networks. We've got a direct communication with the emergency center in Austin for the DPS. So we support the Texas Department of Emergency Management activities and exercises that they do. And we stay pretty busy. So there's a lot of different ways you can get involved with ham radio. And I probably have missed some.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about. I mean, and on Tuesdays at 7:30, is that when you're
the
meeting?
second Thursday, second Thursday of every month. And by the way, you don't have to be a club member to come to that meeting. You don't have to. You can even participate in every meeting all year and come to all the events and never join the club as far as paying dues or anything. And you'd never know the difference. The only thing you can't do is vote, and you can't run for an office if you're not a dues-paying member. It's $40 a year. But that money, that's not the barrier. You could participate in everything we do and be considered a member, without paying that $40 a year. But yeah, anyone's welcome. Nobody's ever been turned away just because they don't know anything about ham radio or that kind of thing. So it's a pretty welcoming and friendly group. We try to be.
Well, it's a good thing for folks to learn and to get your feet in, get wet.
We had two of our most active members, two or three actually, a group of them. They participated in our club meetings for over a year before they ever took their test. Mm-hmm. And then they've been active members for a few years and then just upgraded their license recently, And so they're doing things at their own pace and they're having a lot of fun doing it. And I think that's awesome.
Well, the fact that you don't have to do the Morse code to get in makes it so much easier.
That's right.
You didn't have to do it whenever I got my license. But if I want to go up, then I'm going to have to learn a little Morse code.
Yeah, we were talking last night. Some of us that have been active over the last 5 years or so, we're trying to decide: do we go for our license, the extra license, the extra class is what they call it? Do we go for our extra class license, or do we want to start learning Morse code? And CW is what we call it, continuous wave, the beeps.
Yes.
The Morse code. So, really could do both, but what do we want to focus on as a group learning together? And that's what it is. We're all encouraging each other to learn and trying to pool our resources and different ways of learning and different techniques. And I learn something at every single meeting, and I've been doing this for 5 years. So there's always, I continue to get value out of the club, even though I've been coming around for a long time. It's a lot of fun.
There's a lot to learn. Well, let's remind them about this coming weekend.
Yeah, so again, if you're interested in amateur radio, this weekend, this Saturday, at 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, we have a Ham Radio 101 class that we've got, and that we've got free pizza there too. And just come learn about ham radio. That's happening at the Emergency Operations Center for the city of San Angelo. That's by the airport, by the airport terminal, the building with all the antennas on it. And that's at 8485 Hanger Road. And at that same building, we'll have the annual Ham Radio Field Day, and we'll have different demonstrations and activities for 24 hours, so stop by. And we're also holding the testing session at the clubhouse at 2 o'clock, and that's down the street at the Radio Clubhouse. So all are welcome, and come learn about ham radio. We're happy to share anything that we know, and any questions that you have, we'll get them answered.
I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us, Kathie.
Oh, I enjoy visiting with you guys and learning more about what's going on. We're going to close it out this afternoon with Air Supply with Never Fade Away. So that's a pretty good saying with ham
I like
radio.
that one, yeah.
Never fade away.
Signal doesn't fade.
That's right. Here we go. You guys have a great day.